What's up, real MVPs? Ricky Widmer here, and welcome back to another edition of MVP Games Live. I almost said Sports Live. I do that all the time, Soapy. I do that all the time. Welcome back to another edition of MVP Games Live right here on twitch.tv/MVP-vids. I am joined, as I always am, with my beautiful co-host, Soapy Muffin.
Hey.
Soapy, how you doing today? How's your day going? As YouTube fans won't know that pre-show on the Twitch, we were talking about some Joe Biden insults from the Joe Biden insult bot.
Yeah, dude, it's something else. The Joe Biden insult bot is something that is a hidden gem on Twitter.
I think all the insult bots are like all those. Like for example, the John Gruden parody account was a fucking gem. Back in the day, I haven't checked recently if he still has those going, as John Gruden has been a coach, but like back when he was announcer, it's a gem, and the Joe Biden insult bot is just the same. But you doing good today? Having a good one, Soaps?
Yeah.
Soapy's like, I can't complain. Just another day, another life in the shoes of being Soapy Muffin. But we've got a limited show for you. Like I was gonna say jam-packed, but it's not jam-packed. It's just 3 things on the docket today, as it's a very light gaming news. Going to be talking a little about Banjo-Kazooie and Conkers. Going to be talking a little bit about Marvel. They had some delays for Marvel's Avengers. We're going to be talking about those delays, and then we're going to wrap everything up with, what's our third topic? Oh, 2K. The 2K drama that is going on. Some people think it's drama, so we aren't going to get into it. Let's talk about, is it that big of a deal? Before we get into everything, though, 3 simple things. Number 1, join the Discord. It is down below in the description if you're on YouTube. Twitch, Discord gets you that Twitch link. It is the one spot to get into all the conversations happening between all the real MVPs and, of course, us, the boys in that Discord. So go ahead and join it if you have not already. If you want to support us, patreon.com/MVPvids is how you go ahead and do that. You can also support us by throwing us a sub at twitch.tv, where we are live every Monday through Friday, twitch.tv/MVPvids. But we are also on YouTube at MVP Entertainment. And Soapy, we are going to start the show off proper with a little bit of, I don't want to say Xbox news, but a little bit of maybe like Xbox rumors, as this is from Video Game Chronicle, and it says potential revivals of classic franchises Banjo-Kazooie and Conker's Bad Fur Day are up to developer Rare, Xbox boss Phil Spencer has said. Banjo-Kazooie has enjoyed a resurgence in popularity in the past few years following the 2 characters' high-profile inclusion into Nintendo's Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Rare has capitalized with a new range of Banjo-Kazooie merchandise, as well as products based on its other classic N64 platform, Conkers. Asked in a new wide-ranging Kotaku interview if the 2 franchises could be revived on Xbox platforms, Spencer claimed the decision was left to Rare. The UK studio was focused on new IP in recent years with Sea of Thieves and the upcoming Everwild, but it's also shown a willingness to outsource classic IP via Dahlia, right? Or Dalala Studios Battletoad. I leave it up to studios in terms of things they want to work on, Spencer said. I have a lot of respect for Rare and the work that they do. They do like building new things, and they've seen success with Sea of Thieves. I think they're really excited about Everwild. Soapy, the thing I want to ask you with this, I know you're a fan of the Conker's Bad Fur Day. I am a big fan of the Banjo-Kazooie franchise. I will kick the question off to you first. Do you think, this is kind of like a hypothetical thing, do you think will we ever live in a world where Rare gives us a brand new addition to either the Conkers franchise or the Banjo-Kazooie franchise, a la like we've seen from Naughty Dog when they've just come out with Crash Bandicoot number 4?
I think there's a chance. My whole thing that, like, trying to think of how to explain this. Kind of my issue with if they do bring it back
Yeah.
is there going to be a situation of where, like, is a newer audience going to want to play a game like that?
Okay.
Like, obviously, like, there is a market for it because obviously, other games are having a situation where they're able to pull it off. But for instance, my whole worry is that a game like Conker's Bad Fur Day probably wouldn't fly in today's world.
Why?
Like, obviously, well, because of the whole thing of, like, it's presented as a kid's game,
Okay.
but it's actually, like, it's the contents of the game.
Good point.
Like, I don't think Rare wants to get in the middle of people being like, this game looks like it's made for my child, but now they're talking about fucking a flower or some stupid thing like that.
And even though, like, I'm reading here where, especially for, like, the Game Boy Color, it says, despite the Game Boy Color game being targeted at a family audience, Conker's Bad Fur Day featured graphic violence, strong language, and crude humor, and other adult material that earned a mature rating. With an advisory warning reading, this game is not for anyone under 17.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing of, like, you can tell people, like, oh, it's going to be for people 17 plus. The only thing is, though, how many of those people are going to actually listen to it?
I see.
And
I don't know.
like, you got to think, okay, I guess I'll do, and obviously, this doesn't happen as often anymore.
Yeah.
Because we basically made sure we shut all these people out.
Yeah.
The people that, even if a game's marketed as M-rated, people will still bitch about it, and they'll be like, oh, my kids are doing this, Like, you're gonna get the people who are like, well, why does this game look like it's a kid's game? And yada yada. Like, it's basically, does Rare want to deal with basically the Karens of the gaming world?
Yeah, for me, it's like, so Conkers is different than Banjo-Kazooie, obviously. I think out of the two, I agree with you. If we're going to get a new addition to either Banjo or Conkers, it'll be a new Banjo-Kazooie game, more so than a new Conkers game. But for me, I feel like in the sense of, like, if you're going to make the argument of, well, will there be enough people that want this game? I feel like the main reason that you would make a new Conkers game is for, like, that would be, to me, a game where you're like, okay, we're going to reward our fans that we already have. Because when you look at the two franchises, you have Conkers, who basically had a Game Boy Color game in 99 called Pocket Tales, then the N64 game, which was Bad Fur Day, then an Xbox game in 2005 called Live and Reloaded. That's it. They had a young Conker that was in 2016 on the Microsoft HoloLens, but 2005 is the last time we saw a actual, like, console. It was the Xbox One, not Xbox One, the original Xbox. I forgot there's actually an Xbox One. The original Xbox. It's the last time we've seen that. Where Banjo-Kazooie, we saw Banjo-Kazooie in 98. Then 2000, the N64 sequel, Banjo-Tooie. Then 2003, the Game Boy Advance game, where they had Banjo-Kazooie. This was Grunty's Revenge. Then Banjo Pilot, and then the absolutely worst ever Banjo-Kazooie game I had ever seen and have ever played, Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts, that if you have that game, just throw it out the window, throw it into the stove, throw it into fire, because it is an absolute bad game. It is a terrible game, should not be a Banjo-Kazooie game, and, like, that's for me, Soapy, why I feel like, for me, Banjo-Kazooie needs a new game. Not this year, maybe not next year, but, like, eventually Banjo-Kazooie needs a new game. They need a game to where, if you're going to say that's the last ever Banjo-Kazooie game, you can say, hey, we left the franchise on a high point, or we left the franchise on a point to where it's like, okay, we can kind of leave that there and never touch it again. Because I look at Nuts and Bolts and I go, you took a franchise that, for me, maybe I'm looking at it through nostalgia-covered glasses, which I mean, 9-year-old, what would that be? 9-year-old and 10-year-old? Yeah, 8-year-old, 9-year-old, because there are 2 years in between. 8 and 10-year-old Ricky. Maybe I'm looking at them from like, I was a kid, I love those games. But for me, the first 2 games were so good, Banjo-Kazooie and Banjo-Tooie, to where Nuts and Bolts was one to where it's like, how did this piece of shit ever get made? How did this ever get made, and how does this even relate to the Banjo-Kazooie series? To where I feel like I've said, they need a new game to say, hey, we're going to leave the Banjo-Kazooie story in a good place and have a good game so that fans can reflect on this and not have to remember that Nuts and Bolts is the last game in our series.
Yeah, and obviously, like, I would massively prefer to kind of let Rare move on from everything over, like, I get it, everyone will always associate Rare with, Banjo, Conkers, Battletoads, and all their older titles. And, we'll all always want them to do those titles, but at the same time, it's people need to understand. Obviously, and I'm not trying to say, like, oh, Rare's lost a step, but, like, we saw that when they went back to Banjo, what it turned into.
Yeah.
Like, it's not the same. And when they made they made some stupid knockoff. Rare made a knockoff of their own game. I think it was called the Ukulele. People literally were like, this game stinks.
Yes, ukulele. I have it. Wait, I have it right here. There's a little glare on it, but yeah, I have it right here. You want to know the funny thing about this, as you guys can see? This is actually an MVP first. You ready for this, Soapy?
Oh, yeah?
I'm going to use this old flash drive. I'm literally cutting the plastic on this. Because, like, you say it was horrible and no one played it. I actually bought this game because I was excited for it. Because I'm like, oh, man, it's from the... from, like, the same creators that did Banjo-Kazooie. And first time I'm opening this. Yeah. I have the game right here. I've never fucking played it, though. Never fucking played it. But I've had it here sitting with me for God knows how long. God, I even forgot that they played that game until you brought it up. Or they made that game until you brought it up.
Yeah, and the whole thing was, like, it wasn't, like, the worst game ever. People are like, they've lost a step. They can't, like, they could not make the same type of game as Banjo-Kazooie.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that, like, it's also, Rare has moved on to, I don't want to say bigger and better things, because they've just kind of moved on to, like, more ambitious projects more than anything. But it's a situation of, they're leaving their past, in the past. Like, you don't want to constantly just bring up Banjo and Conker, because then, for instance, you're just putting Rare in a box. Like, you're putting Rare in a situation of, like, if they're not making good Banjo games anymore, they're not going to make money.
So,
like, I think it's...
Let me ask you this then. I don't mean to cut you off, but I want to inject this question in. Do you then not have confidence that Rare could make a good Banjo-Kazooie game anymore?
I think there's somewhere in there, like somewhere in my heart, that I want to say I have faith in them because of all the years of good games they had. But I've seen their track record, and it's like, okay, after that, like, golden age, it's been shaky.
Okay.
To where that's kind of why I view it as, like, there's the trust of, like, it's Rare. I want to believe in them. But then there's I saw Nuts and Bolts. I saw Ukulele. I saw what Sea of Thieves was at launch.
Nuts and Bolts got awful. Awful.
I've seen what they've done, and, like, obviously, Rare's starting to kind of turn back the clock a little bit of, like, they're starting to become a respectable thing again, but, like, if I was Rare, I wouldn't touch Banjo-Kazooie or Conker until either A, like, not public image, but more or less of, like, how people view your games has kind of reverted back to what it was in the early 2000s. Or just don't. Because people played Ukulele and were like, it's okay, but, like, we don't want you to make another game like it.
And actually, I want to throw this out there really quick. The developer of Yooka-Laylee was not Rare. So Rare did not develop it. Yeah. So it was Playtonic
Man, so I'm
Games.
actually the biggest fucking idiot.
Playtonic Games developed it, and Team 17 produced it. So it wasn't even a Rare game. It was a knockoff of a Rare game. Because, like, literally, it's fucking a chameleon and a bat that have the same fucking controls as Banjo-Kazooie. So, yeah, it's not technically listed as a Rare game.
Okay. Yeah, man, so now I sound like the big fucking idiot.
Hey, that's why I want to be here. Want to correct so people don't get the wrong information. Because, like, for me, I don't know. I sit here and I think, why, like, to me, it's like a why not? Like, I understand the Conkers thing, but at the same time, I don't. Because it's like, if you feel like, if there's just no story to be told, then don't make the fucking game. That's number one. Because to me, the story has to be the most important. Because, like, when you have a game like this, the gameplay isn't going to be revolutionary. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not going to make any groundbreaking gameplay options with this. But, I don't know. I look at it and I look at, like, Crash Bandicoot, who we just saw It's About Time, released earlier this month. That's basically, if you think about it, a 19-year gap from Wrath of... So, you had Crash Bandicoot in 96. Strikes Back was in 97. That was Crash 2. Then Warped, which was Crash 3. Then you had the Wrath of Cortex, which was 2001. And then all the way to, I know they had like Twin Sanity, Crash of the Titans. Those were not in the main story. Like, those weren't 1, 2, 3, 4. To where It's About Time 19 years later. So I look at it and I go, if Crash Bandicoot can do it, why can't Rare do it? But like you said, it's a thing of, and it's like what Phil Spencer said, it's up to them. If they want to go back to do it and they want to remake it, it's whether you want to or not. But the thing is, and I think this to me will kind of decide whether or not they should, is Sea of Thieves. What I remember it from launch was it had a lot of criticisms behind it. Battletoads is technically a remake, and from what I heard at launch about it again, because yet again, I don't have an Xbox, so I didn't play it. People were kind of mixed about it. And then Everwild... Sea of
Thieves is on PC, by the way.
It is. I just haven't played it on PC. I'm not really a like, with me, PC gaming for me is like, oh, I play WoW and Among Us. Those are probably the only two PC games that I have booted. Like, I have Valorant downloaded, have not fucking touched it. I have League downloaded because I was going to play with Dave and Retro, have not touched it. WoW and Among Us, those are the only PC games that I play. And then Everwild, we're not going to get to see until Xbox Series X and Series S days, because that's going to be a next-gen console game. So it's like, to me, it's like, let's see what Everwild does. And if it's really good, okay, maybe we don't have to touch this discussion. But at the same time, even if it is good, it's like, hey, let's get a remade game going. I mean, Rare's got tons of other games too, to where Banjo-Kazooie and Conkers aren't even the only ones that fans would be like, hey, let's get a remake of those games. But Soapy, let's kind of pivot here into Marvel Avengers territory. We got a little bit of sad news for Marvel's Avengers, as there are going to be delays. This is from IGN. Square Enix and Crystal Dynamics have delayed the next major updates for Marvel's Avengers, pushing the next-gen versions into next year and delaying the addition of the game's first DLC character, Kate Bishop. In a post on the Avengers blog, Crystal Dynamics Studio had their head, Scott Amos, apologized for a slight delay to the Kate Bishop DLC, but explained that it is due to ensuring new content is given the time for exclusive internal testing. With this in mind, we've decided to push Kate Bishop's operation launch back a bit out of November, said Amos, but no new date was given for the first new character. Additionally, Amos explained the next-gen updates are being pushed back. We've also made the decision to shift our PS5 and Xbox Series X and S launch to next year to ensure that we give our team the time to deliver a next-gen experience showcasing all that this game is meant to be, he said. Soapy, I want to ask you, what are your thoughts on this? The delay of not just the DLC for Kate Bishop, but the delay for Avengers not coming to the next gen until 2021.
Dude, honestly, I'm gonna be really honest. I don't give a shit what Avengers does now.
Okay.
That game stinks. Like, that's just actual garbage. Like, I will say this right now. I normally don't regret purchases. I actually regret buying Avengers.
Okay.
I beat the game, have not touched it since.
Is it just because of how repetitive it is, like we've talked about in the past?
Well, it also doesn't help that I didn't really like playing as any of the characters.
Okay.
Like, the only reason I liked it, like, this is the thing, you already know, I've said this to you before, I'm not much of a Marvel guy anyways.
Yeah.
I've always been more of a DC person. Literally, like, one of the only reasons I played it is because I do some of the voice actors.
Yep. You didn't have a connection to the characters. You had a connection to, like
Laura Bailey and Travis
Laura. Like, I mean, for me, the thing that I've got two thoughts with this. First one's the DLC. The DLC is the one to me where it's like, are you fucking kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me? Like, see, this is why you don't announce shit unless you have it ready to go. Because, like, to me, the next gen part is like kind of like what we were talking about with Shadowlands, when Shadowlands delayed for World of Warcraft. Like, I can understand next gen. We haven't had the systems out yet, so you want to make sure, like, next gen comes out, you're tweaking your game so that it's not all buggy and shit for release. I get that. The next gen coming in 2021, I can kind of forgive that. Kind of like World of Warcraft Shadowlands, where it's like, okay, make the changes you need to make so that it's absolutely just good to go. And you could say with the DLC that the pandemic might have fucked with this a little, but they knew about the pandemic since March. Like, this wasn't like the game launched in February and then it was like, oh shit. Like, it wasn't like they came out in March, oh, and then we're gonna have the DLC in April, and oh shit, we have to, like, kind of rework some things because of the pandemic. To me, the DLC is the one to where it's like, what are you thinking? Because they hyped it up from launch. They hyped it up before launch that, hey, we're going to have the Hawkeye DLC. Kate Bishop is going to be the first character. It's going to be so great to play. You and I even talked about it, that it's like, hey, there are some players that have kind of left this game, that are they going to be able to come back and be rejuvenated with this Kate Bishop DLC? And you're losing players. Like, you're already losing players from your player base to where now people are going to look at this and go, all right, whatever, I don't need to come back. Like Dave says in Twitch chat, dead game is already dead. No one cares if there's a new DLC. Like, I will say, there were probably a few people that were like, okay, I'm excited for the DLC, maybe I'll come check it out. And maybe there was a smaller pocket that was like, you know what, I'll give the game another chance when Kate Bishop and Hawkeye come back, because, hey, I really loved Hawkeye, and I want to see how they go ahead and play into that. But, like, for me, on the other side of it, it's just, that to me is the biggest, like, no-no of this, is you fucking hyped up this DLC, and then right before it's ready to come out, you go, whoa, okay, we're going to pull the, like, I shouldn't say pull the plug on it, we're going to delay it back. To me, that is a big red flag. I hope that when the DLC comes out, that the people that do play it enjoy it and love it, and I hope it's good. I hope that this is just a, like, benefit of the doubt. Hey, we're going to make it better, and when it comes out, it's a good DLC to play. But to me, this is a huge red flag. This should have been ready to go to where you shouldn't have to delay your DLC. Whereas on the next gen side, I understand why there's a delay there.
Yeah, and I'm going to be brutally honest. I don't think this DLC would have brought people back. And it's simply because, unless it's a complete overhaul of how the game worked, like, people weren't leaving because they didn't like playing the characters. People were leaving because the game was boring.
Yeah.
Like, unless this adds, like, a complete overhaul to the way that, like, the grinding works and how endgame works, no, like, people would just be like, okay, cool. They're going to add 2 of the same character in the game. And then it's going to be Hawkeye's going to play exactly the same as everyone else. And my whole thing is, I don't like harping on the characters, because don't get me wrong, like, I know there are people who do like the combat. Just my whole thing was, the characters didn't feel definitive enough. If I played Kamala Khan, I felt like I was just playing Hulk, but as a girl.
Yeah, and I mean, like we've talked before, she had a little bit different abilities, but like they were kind of the same character, except like I've said before, Kamala had more range than Hulk did.
Yeah, and the whole problem with games like this is essentially the fact of, you launched it with these 5 characters. Wait, okay, let me do the fucking math. 6. My bad.
Well,
Did the fucking math wrong.
Technically, they only had 4. No, you're right. They had 4. They had 4 during the beta, but then Captain America and Thor are 6. You're right.
Yeah. So it's one of those things of, it's the 6 characters, like, they're okay. Obviously, it's fine. And it's like Dave even brought up with Warframe. Warframe has a very similar, not so much gameplay aspect, but like Warframe has a similar system. But holy fuck, Warframe's actually fun. Because, like, yes, you're doing like similar missions enough, and it's just, it blows my fucking mind that, like, all of the different I forget what they're called in fucking Warframe. I think they're just called Warframes. Like, there's like 70 Warframes or something like that. All of them feel unique.
Yeah.
And obviously I get it. This may have been Crystal Dynamics' first step into the genre. But it's like, you don't. My whole problem is just certain characters. Like, everyone doesn't have to have light and heavy attacks.
Yeah.
If, like, Iron Man's not a guy, he's gonna be like, oh shit, I'm gonna go up and boom, punch you. Like, I shouldn't have to punch you to be able to do my other abilities. Like, I just think that's dumb.
Yeah.
Like, it's just everything.
Like
with
his
the combat.
combos aren't gonna work the same as like a Captain America.
Yeah, it's like the whole thing is, they hyped him up basically as the ranged character. So why the fuck am I spending 90% of my time in front of somebody, punching them? Like, that's my whole problem.
And if he's the range character, I'll even say, like, aiming with his repulsor, like when he puts his hand out and shooting, like, to me it was, at first I was like, oh, this is just something that I'm going to have to get used to. And then it was just no, I just don't like playing as Iron Man, because when you're actually like sitting there, it's like, oh, I'm a sitting duck and I'm just going to have to move. Like, having to aim just wasn't, what's the word I'm looking for? It wasn't smooth. It was kind of, to me, hard to aim with him.
It felt clunky.
To where it's like, oh, I'm just going to fucking get in a fist fight and then kind of use my repulsors in there. Like I said, did it feel cool to do the combo of like punch, and then he like under the arm does the repulsor? Yeah, felt fucking awesome, because that's what I see Tony Stark doing in the MCU movies. The thing with me that I think was Avengers' downfall is they tried to make it too much. Like, they tried to do a game like Arkham with a game like Destiny all in one. They tried to give you here's your storyline, here's your one-player game that you get to play, and it's basically, this is the story that you follow, mixed with hey, you're going to go on missions with your team and go ahead and do this. And was it ambitious? Yeah, it was ambitious, because, like I said, with the Arkham Knight games, you just get the storyline. It's you playing by yourself instead of playing with a team. But I wonder if Marvel Avengers should have just been, hey, we're going to have all these characters. Now, could they have been reworked? Yes, you're right. They weren't the most smooth of characters. Probably my favorite to play was Captain America out of all of them. But like I said, I feel like he was my favorite to play because he felt like playing as Batman from Arkham Knight, except I had a shield I could throw.
Yeah.
I feel like that mixed with he's my guy. Him and Spider-Man are my favorite MCU Marvel heroes. So of course I'm gonna latch on to Iron Man, or I'm gonna latch on to Captain America first. But to me, it's like I almost have the feeling of you should have just made this. Hey, you're gonna play as all the Avengers, but we're just gonna make this a single player storyline game and leave the multiplayer part out of it, because I feel like that was the part that made it A, too ambitious, and B, made it that fucking ultra repetitive thing of just playing mission after mission after mission to grind your character up to max level. Or max power, I should say.
Yeah, and also, remember when before the game came out and they're like, oh, there are some missions, they take 10 minutes and some take an hour?
Mm-hmm.
I did one of the hour-long missions. You want to know why that is the worst fucking thing I've ever done in my entire life?
Because it took like 2 hours?
No. Well, I mean, that's part of it. It's literally all the side missions put into one mission.
So it's just combining every single mission.
Yeah, it's basically stand in square on this floor. Okay, you travel to the next floor of the building, stand in this square.
Oh, okay.
It's just like, dude, holy fuck. Like, and my whole thing is, like, I'm fine with, like, certain things taking a while in a game. Like, for instance, I think it's Destiny 1, like, Vault of Glass or something like that. It took, like, 20 minutes. I think it's, like, the fastest.
Yeah.
And even that, like, that's with absolutely no fuck-ups or anything like that. But, like, holy fuck, dude. I don't want to sit here and fucking stand in square for 5 minutes. Okay, cool. Now
I'll
go.
ask you this, then. Is it the type of game that Avengers is? Is that the problem? Because, like, I think of it, and it's like the type of game I'm thinking of is the one where it's like you have this table and it's got all your missions that you go to. I think of Avengers. I think of Destiny. I think of Anthem. Is that the problem? Is this sort of game... how do I put this? Is it that sort of game is never going to work unless you do it like Destiny, where the bullshit thing I hate about Destiny of, hey, here's part of the game, and then the rest are just going to be DLCs.
I don't think it's the game. I think it's just the way they went about it.
Okay, because I think of Anthem, too. Anthem was a similar style of, like, the go here, pick out your mission, go into that mission, and that was another game that
oh, man, here we go again.
Your dog wants to get on the conversation as well. But, like... that was, and Dave's right too, Anthem did have other issues, but like, is it just really hard to do a game in that format to where I feel like the only one that has any legs to stand on is Destiny when it comes to like that style of game?
I mean, it's the reason why I feel like, sorry for my dog.
You're fine.
The whole thing, I feel like it's the gameplay that didn't work out for Avengers.
Okay.
It's the fact of, like, the gameplay and stuff like that works for Anthem, and it works for Destiny because that's what that system is built around. Like, because those are basically looter shooters. It's basically an online looter shooter. Marvel doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
Marvel would basically be like, I don't want to sit here and be like, oh, Iron Man has to scrummage through this chest to find this chest piece that has a little bit better. Like, it should just be...
He wouldn't scrummage through it. He would sit in a lab and create it himself.
Yeah, and that's the stuff that I can't stand over it. I think they took something like, this is the thing. Marvel is a license to print money, but holy fuck, you have to get those things right.
Yeah,
because the whole thing is like, dude, you gotta think, like, when you think of like box office movies from like the last couple of years, a lot of them are Marvel.
Yeah, a lot of them are the MCU movies.
Yeah, and it's because the fact of the fans love these characters. I don't want to play a thing of where, like, oh, Iron Man feels like I'm a fucking toddler.
Yeah.
Like, I want to sit here and, like, this is why I think it should have been a single-player game of just the story of I almost said Kamala Harris. the story of Kamala Khan. Like, it should have been that. It shouldn't have been like. It shouldn't have been like Destiny 2. Or like Destiny 3.0.
So I laugh when you say that because all I can think back to is during the Democratic primaries when she was like, she's telling this story about a girl who used to wait for the bus, and she was like, and I was that girl. Could you imagine Kamala Harris standing there telling, like, there was a story of a young girl who thought she'd never fit in, and then she got superpowers and became an Avenger, and you want to know the best part about it? I was that girl. Like, that's all I could think about in my head when you said Kamala Harris. But to me, the big thing with Avengers, and this will be my last point of it, because this conversation could go on. There's more into this that we could hit about the failings of Avengers. And I would love to sit here and defend it, but, like, I can't because when I look at it, Dave and you spent more time playing it than me. Like, it couldn't even get me hooked into it to where it's like, that says something to where the one out of us that is probably the biggest Marvel fan, I would say myself and Dave are at the top. Like you said, Soapy, you're not that big of the Marvel fan. It couldn't even get me to play longer than you guys. So, like, that's not a good thing.
Also doesn't help you're addicted to World of Warcraft.
Well, this was even before the WoW addiction. This was before the WoW addiction as well.
It was in there.
Teetering. It was teetering. But this was more in the MLB The Show addiction as well. MLB The Show had my love as well. That was when I was very into... I wonder if I have it here with all my notes. Because I write things like an old man. Where I had this complete page of just absolute just garbage is... let's see. Can I get it to where it doesn't... Yeah, this absolute garbage is just everything I needed to get the Mike Trout card. And I also had, like, other things of, like, hey, what challenges do I have to do in MLB? So that was in that day as well. But the biggest thing and the point to what I was going to say is that this game did wrong, that the movies did right, is when you think about the movies, they gave us Iron Man. Then they gave us Thor. Then they gave us Captain America. Then they gave us Hulk. Then they gave us this one. Then they all came together for the Avengers movie, where they kind of built it up over time. They didn't jump right away and say, oh, here's an Avengers movie. Where this game was like, here's an Avengers game. To where I wonder, should they, and yet again, maybe this wasn't the plan for Square Enix. Maybe Square Enix wouldn't even be the studio that Marvel would get to develop this game. Who knows if this was even an idea that they wanted. Should they have done the, like, kind of Arkham route? It's like, okay, we're going to give you a Captain America game. We're going to give you an Iron Man game. We're going to give you a Thor game. We're going to have all these individual games kind of build up. And then, boom, it leads into an Avengers game. Should that have been the plan? That's question one. Question two, would that even work in gaming like it does in the movies? Because with games, it takes X amount of years to develop these games.
Alright, so I guess I'll just say my overall question is, I don't think they would have needed to make, or not my overall question, my overall answer to that would be, they wouldn't need to do that, because Avengers, like, the reason they did it with the movies was, like, comics were well known, and, like, the heroes were known, but not on a broad scale.
Good point.
Like, this is at the post of probably Marvel's biggest movies of Endgame and Infinity War.
You're right. When Iron Man came out, Marvel was nowhere near DC was. Like, they couldn't touch what Batman was doing in the box office. You're right. You're right.
Yeah, and it's with Avengers, they didn't need to, like, build up the characters. I think the only one, and even that, they build her up throughout the game, was Kamala Khan.
Yep.
And I think it's just one of those things of, I think, poor execution on a lot of features. Like, I'll say this game still has some potential. It's
Mm-hmm.
just they need to realize, like,
Can they
if
save it?
Crystal Dynamics, I think there's a chance, but it's
Okay.
gonna take a whole lot of work.
Or like is what
Like,
Dave said true? Dead game is dead.
honestly, if I was them, I'd abandon the project. Like, release the Hawkeye DLC,
You
release
can't.
Spider-Man,
You
and
can't. You can't abandon it. Like that's the thing. Like, you,
I mean, companies have done it in the past.
I I feel like you can't. I feel like you give it the year of updates you were gonna do, and then abandon it if it's not working. Like if you abandon it now, it's so much of a loss to where it's like I just trudge through it. I go, we're gonna go on with our year. We'll reevaluate in a year whether to move on from this or not.
Yeah, I think it's just the only thing that I don't. I'm trying to figure out how to explain it. It's I think the only reason why I'm saying abandon it is because you're not gonna bring people back. It's people like gaming has scorned so many people. Of like, for instance,
Mm-hmm.
when Destiny fucks up,
Yeah.
there are players who never come back to Destiny.
Yeah.
It's Destiny has that core group of people who
Mm-hmm.
stay throughout it,
Yeah.
and you have the people that come in at the end of the life cycle. That's why Destiny seems like it's always so populated because like you don't have people leave.
Mm-hmm.
There's barely anyone playing Avengers anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like it is hard to find multiplayer games.
Yeah.
Like it's hard to find lobbies now.
Mm-hmm.
It At this point the game's dead. Like there's no like I get releasing new content. Like the only reason I'm saying release the Hawkeye and Spider-Man thing is because that was promised.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was 100% promised of just release those and say, hey, sorry, support for this game will no
Well,
longer be active.
Spider-Man just to the PS4 folks, right?
Yeah. I mean, dude, Sony would rather fucking die. Like it's just it's annoying.
Yeah, it's one of those to where it's like Dave was right in Twitch chat. I was so hyped about it just because like I would defend this game tooth and nail before it came out. Like people would say, "Oh, it's going to be a bad game." And I'd be like, "Well, let's wait and see. I have hope for this game." And yeah, when it came out, it did not hit what I wanted to where like I'm happy I didn't buy like the most expensive version of the game because then I'd feel like I really wasted my money on it. But Soapy, the last thing we're going to talk about today, this might be the shortest topic of today, is we're taking a look at a little bit of 2K where people are up in arms, Soapy. And here's why. This is from NME.com. 2K Games has reportedly introduced unskippable advertisements into its popular sports game, NBA 2K21. The in-game ads were first noticed by Steve Ivor. Hope I said that right. It's like Steve and Survivor in the same word, which uploaded a recording of an Oculus ad appearing in the premium game on Sunday, October 18th. The publication claims that the ad appeared in PS4, Xbox One, and PC versions of the game. They are unskippable, attached to a pre-game video called My Team Season 2, Episode 7. That's auto-started in a loading screen that takes longer than the ad runs, even on PC running from a SSD. And the Stevier says in his report. It is currently unclear if the ad will also appear in the upcoming next-gen versions of the game, the Xbox Series S and X, the PS5 editions of the game that are set to cost $70 at launch compared to the $60 current-gen prices. Here are two tweets that the article says or has in it from fans. Seeing ads in triple AAA full price games is effing disgusting. F you, NBA 2K. So NBA 2K, you're inserting forced ads back into your $60 game a month after launch, so reviews don't slam you. Incredible. Your greed knows no bounds. Soapy, what are your thoughts on this?
It doesn't surprise me at this point, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, can anyone it's just, like, honestly, as much as we fucking hate EA,
Mm-hmm.
EA, can you please start making fucking NBA Live again? Can
They
someone step up and
didn't
make a
they?
fucking basketball game? Well, they started to, but everyone kept bashing them constantly if they're like, the game
Yeah,
shit,
they made NBA
before it
Live
even would come
19.
out.
I thought they made one last year.
Hold on, that ain't last year, that's 2 years ago.
That's
Because
right.
last
Because
year's
this would have
2K
been
was
21.
2K20.
You're right. You're right. I thought there was news that they made a newer one. All right. Yeah, because
It
Embiid was
was,
on the cover.
yeah. It's one of those things of, like, it's just one of those things. 2K's gonna keep doing this shit, and
Mm-hmm.
people need to realize, you give them money every year.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna be brutally honest, giving them your money, and when you know they're gonna do this shit every year,
Yeah.
you shouldn't be surprised that they're gonna keep doing it. For instance, there was one time where it was they have like the stupid 2K TV thing. I think it was 2K20. They had an
Yep.
unskippable one that was entirely ads.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, I don't know why people act surprised. There's advertisement everywhere in the game. You are basically paying $60 to look at advertising and sometimes play basketball.
and
It's
and sometimes play basketball. Sometimes,
like
only sometimes.
it's just the fact of like, I want another company to make a basketball game, but holy fuck, no one wants to step up because no one wants
Mm-hmm.
to compete against 2K.
Well, is it a
Because you have
compete against 2K thing, or is it a like what we talk about Madden in the EA verse of 2K has the main license?
well, you can get the license to it as well. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's my only problem is the fact of no one wants to compete with 2K because 2K's fan base is fucking annoying.
Mm-hmm.
And I would brutally honest, and I will basically, this is my call out to all those people that are always like, huh, life's gonna be shit, no matter what happens. Those fucking people.
Mm-hmm.
Those people are the ones who are not allowed to bitch
Yeah.
at this point. Because if those people bitch, congratulations. If you fucking even gave EA a chance,
Mm-hmm.
we may have actually had good 2Ks. But
Fuck
no,
it.
you got the
Give
people,
it. Give it.
oh my god, like, life's gonna be so fucking garbage.
Like I
You got
said.
those fucking people.
Like I said before, my favorite NBA game ever, The Inside, which was like 2009, when LeBron was still in the Cavs first time. One of my favorite NBA games. Give the license back to San Diego Studios. Let them make a game again because that was, like I said, one of my favorite NBA games to play. And yes, do they have some things with MLB The Show that are kind of janky, but nothing like NBA 2K1, where it's like, I agree with you. Like, for all the people that are complaining, like, oh, how could a AAA game do this? It's like, you're paying them the money. It's almost like when, like, the tweet that I read where it was like, seeing this in a AAA game, blah, 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 F you, where it's like, it's almost on the side of, like, the people who, like, vote for X and X politician are like, oh, I did not see this coming of him not keeping his word. It's like, well, what do you expect? He's a politician. Like, this shit just happens. Like, that's expected, just like it is 2K. All they care about is your money. Oh, you want these cosmetics, you want all this. Oh, you got to pay us money. Ronnie 2K. There's actually, I've seen on Twitter, people calling for Ronnie 2K to get fired.
We've been calling for Ron to get fired for like fucking 10 years.
Yeah, but like this week it's been fucking picking up more. Like there's been the murmurings, but then it picked up a little bit. You know how like you get spikes
Oh no,
and
dude,
stuff?
it picked up. Yeah, it happened last year too, because that's when he got into a beef with a 2K YouTuber where he basically
going
said the
into
only
Twitch streams? And he
Yep,
was
he was
like,
going into Twitch
yeah.
streams and like it was basically to be basically to become a verified person on 2K where you'd have like a logo over your head or something like that
Yeah.
to show like, oh, I'm a YouTuber. They would have like you would have to sign a contract, and a lot of YouTubers were like, no, fuck that, I'm
So
not
he would
signing
go
that
in there and
contract.
harass them. Basically harass
Yeah.
them.
Well, it was what he would do is like, for instance, certain YouTubers sign the contract. Obviously, like Chris Move, like basically the Godfather 2K signed it,
Yeah.
and that's why you never really hear him criticize the game because that's part of the contract of like, no, you cannot criticize us. You have to basically give us praise at every chance. And it was the thing he would do was the people who didn't want to sign contracts, he would go in there and like, hey, if you do this for me, I'll get you verified.
Yeah.
And for instance, he'd ask people to do stupid shit of like, oh, like sing this song for me, like say it in like a weird voice, and it's like, okay, that's just fucking weird.
Yeah. Basically, the dance
like,
for me, monkey.
Yeah, and that's why people were asking for him to get fired. It also doesn't help that he started beef with one of the biggest 2K YouTubers, Agent Zero, of where it was Agent called out 2K and was like, oh, like, how about you guys get a community manager who actually gives a shit about the community?
Yeah.
And then Ronnie 2K basically was like, oh, the only reason you're an American citizen is I vouched for you. Yeah.
And that's your community manager. Like,
yep.
they're like, I'll be honest, I'm glad I don't play NBA 2K anymore. Like, it's a game where I used to play it all the time. Then the last two that I bought like 2 years ago, I bought the last two. I think that was, 18, 19?
Yeah.
To where after that, I'm like, fuck it, I'm not buying the same game again. Like, even Madden, I didn't buy Madden this year. I almost caved. I almost said, hey, I should buy it. Soapy talked me out of it, which I have not. Good call, because World of Warcraft is calling, and it's taken up most of my life. So thank you for that, Soapy, so I didn't waste my money on that. Pretty much the only sports game I buy now is MLB The Show, because although the past 2 years, all I've played is Diamond Dynasty, I'm happy with that. Like, I'm happy with that version of the game and the changes that they made this year, to where it's like, I didn't think it was a dog shit version of the game, where I kind of feel like 2K, I was just like, what, am I buying this just to, kind of like how David said sometimes, it's like, oh, I'm just buying this to simulate through a season to see if I can win a championship. It's like, is that really worth $60 of my money? To where it's like, with the unskippable ads, like, I almost have the mindset of like, sucks to suck. Like, what do you expect them to do? Is it right for them to do it? Probably not. But at the same time, like, it's their fucking game. If you don't like it, don't buy it. Like, it's easy as that. And I know that I say it's easy as that. I know there's a thing in the mind of like, but Ricky, I want to play a basketball game. If I don't buy it, I can't play a basketball game. Well, that's the high horse you got to sit on. If you're not happy with the company, if you're not happy with what they're doing, hit them where it hurts. Hit them in their pocketbooks. Soapy, any final thoughts on anything before we wrap everything up?
Fire Ronnie 2K, make Chris Manning the community manager. EA, if you're listening to this, you're probably not. Make NBA Live again. Anyone who bitches about NBA Live sucking before it even comes out, suck my fucking dick and get over it, you goddamn fat loser.
Question.
Huh.
If you had to pick between one or the other, what would you pick? NBA Live or EA to make a college football and college basketball games? I'd pick the college games and just have those be better than the pros.
Yeah, I'd have those. I'd have those as well.
Because like, I love those college basketball games. They were awesome.
Yeah. Basically, any game studio that's like, oh shit, dude, we want to make sports games. Don't be discouraged by the fact that 2K's fan base is a bunch of fucking mouth breathers. Don't be discouraged by them. Just make the game anyways. Just make your basketball games. You make them as best you can. At some point, people get pissed off enough with 2K and they'll start breathing through their nose a little bit. And they'll be like, man, I'm starting to see clearly now.
God, I fucking love the way you describe shit, Soapy. I absolutely love it.
It'd be like that sometimes.
It's the best. But that's going to do it for MVP Games Live. Thank you guys for checking out the show today. Remember, join the Discord if you have not already. Linked down below in the description. Or you can do !Discord into Twitch chat right now to get that link. If you want to support us, patreon.com/MVPvids is the place to go. You can also support us by throwing us a sub on Twitch, where we are live every Monday through Friday, twitch.tv/MVPvids. We're also on YouTube at MVP Entertainment. Soapy and I will be back tomorrow for a Tuesday edition of MVP Games Live. Dave and I coming up next, live on Twitch with MVP Sports Live. That's going to do it for us today, though. I want to thank you guys for watching, and as always, have a good day, everybody.
Bye.